Welcome to OpenFrame, a podcast by Pixieset, the place for photographers and other creatives to have inspiring, honest, and uplifting conversations.
Thank you so much, Sachin, for making time today.
My pleasure.
I was totally under the impression that you are Canadian or American until I watched your videos, and I was like, hang on a minute.
Wait a second. Yeah.
Something's not adding up.
From London, England originally.
Amazing.
Yes.
It's where I'm sitting right now.
Yeah, perfect. I was going to say it's late where you are, so I appreciate you taking the time out on your Friday night to chat with me.
Of course. No, it's a pleasure. I'm really, really excited for this conversation.
Awesome.
Sachin, wedding photographer, coach, podcast host, awesome human. Tell us a little bit about yourself, where you are sitting today, because you're not in London. How did you end up there? How did you end up doing what you do now? Take us a little bit on your journey behind the scenes.
Yeah, sure. Awesome, Nadia. So yeah, thanks for connecting with me and really, I'm a wedding photographer. I'm based in Vancouver, BC. I'm originally from London, England. I've been shooting weddings for over 10 years. I started in 2009, just kind of assisting and shooting other weddings with other photographers wanting to learn. At the time, I was in finance. I was training to be an auditor, qualified, became a CA in London at a firm there, and then realized along the way that isn't really what I wanted to do, and I have a creative side of myself that really wanted to be unleashed, so to speak. And so I spent the next 2 years from 2009 to 2011 just assisting other photographers, still being an accountant, but every weekend as much as I could in the wedding season, shooting and just learning from other creatives. And then along the way, moved over to Vancouver, BC. And in 2012, I moved over after doing 1 year of shooting weddings in London. And then for a few years, I was simultaneously shooting in London and in Vancouver, but then pretty much made Vancouver my home from 2013, I would say, consistently. And I've been here ever since.
Wow. Okay. What made you move? I'm interested. Why countries? Because I moved country as well. I'm really curious.
Yeah. So beach and mountains is the short version. I just really wanted to live where I could be outdoors in nature. And Vancouver has this really special energy. And have you been to Vancouver?
I haven't been yet, but I have friends who live there and I know a lot of people who've been, and they say the same thing. Basically, it has everything. Like, that's why they love it.
Yeah, it's really special. And I visited in, I think, 2005, came out to see some friends and absolutely fell in love. And at that time, I was, training to be this accountant. I hated it. It wasn't for me. And I was thinking about leaving. But I knew with the qualification and that experience, I could live and do. I'd have a lot more opportunities, so to speak, and Vancouver was a huge draw for me. So that actually gave me the motivation to continue with the accountancy and qualify, and then just along the way, really realized that's going to be my home, and so had a clear mission in mind, and I've been living here, since 2011. So I can't believe it. It still kind of feels like I'm settling in, but. Yeah.
Oh, wow. Beautiful. But is that home to you now?
Yeah, 100%. I go back home to, I still call it home, but I go back to London very often, and I love being there. But I always love coming back to Vancouver. Where are you from? Just remind me.
Well, I'm Italian. I was born in Italy, but I was raised in Germany.
Wow.
So I lived in Germany for 30 years. I'm basically German, really. Okay. I'm not this is as Italian as it gets. My brain is not very Italian, I think. And then 5 years ago, I moved to England, which is kind of where I feel most at home, because I've never felt at home in either culture. So.
Wow. Yeah. I feel you. Awesome.
Yeah. Kind of had to find that third neutral ground for myself.
Mm,
So yeah, so I feel very at home here, more than I
great,
did in other.
great.
Amazing. But today we're talking business. Um, well, and a mix of other things. And I'm really excited.
Mm.
And everyone I told that I'm talking to Sachin today, they were like, oh, really? you have a reputation, you have a name. Like they were, I mean, the shock was positive. It wasn't like
Good,
negative.
good.
Everyone was like, that's amazing. You're talking to Sachin. So I'm really excited. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
And to kind of dive a little bit into business but also work-life balance, if that's
Mm,
still, if people still call that, or if maybe there's a different name, I don't know. But uh, because being obviously a solopreneur as we are and stuff,
mm,
it can get quite crazy and also lonely, and kind of how to, and it also kind of blends in with your personal life, right? How to kind of balance that in a way. But I loved your videos. You are a coach. You have the architect lifestyle, right? System.
yes, the architect
Um,
lifestyle system.
I
Yes.
would love for you to talk a little bit about that, what that entails, what that means
Mm,
to you, and what that does for people.
yeah, awesome. So I've become a photographer from being an accountant, and community is really important to me. I love getting people together. I love learning. I love being in an environment where I can learn the things that I want to learn, and of course, like share that with others too. So way back in, I guess it was around 2015, I had gained a certain level of like comfort within wedding photography in Vancouver, and I created a conference called The Experience. First, I started an interview website, kind of like this, and then that became a conference in Vancouver. And but I wasn't teaching or hosting or anything like that. I was simply designing the event and bringing people together. I used to throw a lot of parties in London, and from when I was like 15 to at nightclubs in London all the way up until like 21, 22. And part of me thought that it'll just be like running one of these nights. And of course, creating a conference is a lot more work than just that. But essentially, over time, I myself wanted to teach things that I had learned and help other photographers. Before I became an accountant, I wanted to become a maths teacher, believe it or not. And
Wow.
and so yeah, it's not what I guess most kids dream about being, is being a maths teacher. But I really love maths, and I have an analytical side to myself that
I mean, you are an accountant, or you were an accountant, so of course,
yeah,
makes sense.
yeah, totally. It wasn't the numbers that brought me into it. It was strategy, actually. I really was curious about businesses and how they function, how their brand works, how they grow, and becoming an auditor, I was able to go into different businesses and really dissect like who they are, what they're about, and then of course like just get into the nitty gritty of how they actually function. But to answer your question, the Architect Lifestyle System is really a course I developed over the pandemic. Actually, the pandemic was a challenging time, but an exciting and a time that I'm now grateful for, because it gave me the opportunity to really sit back and reflect and look at where my life was and what I had been doing. And I saw it as an opportunity that I could create something new for myself here. Just like when I qualified as an accountant, all the banks actually crashed, and there were no, so this is like 2008, there were actually not many jobs for me. And I actually went traveling for about 6 months and went away and explored. And I saw this as another opportunity to pivot and shift things, and in fact accelerate it and do it even faster. So I spent a lot of the pandemic creating these masterminds and building a live course, which is the Architect Lifestyle System, because I found a lot of photographers and even creatives like myself have experienced that feeling of like being stuck in your business or hitting a plateau and knowing that you just feeling like you can't go any further. But what they really want is like to live a life where they can wake up feeling free, in control, serving the right type of clients that they really love to work with, and and taking their business and the vision for their lives to like another level. And so I've designed a course that really is about creating a lifestyle for photographers to achieve their goals and their dreams. And the reason why it's called the Architect Lifestyle System, ARC, because my brand is ARC, but an architect is really someone who takes control, who knows what they want, and then actively and consciously goes after creating that for themselves. And it's not necessarily all about business. This is about living a lifestyle which is in harmony with your business is in harmony with your life, and your life is in harmony with your business. So it's really well-rounded, and that's the goal of that. And I'm happy to say that I've done 2 rounds of the course live. That it's around 8 weeks each, and it's been a beautiful experience and had some great results from the architects that have taken part in it.
Beautiful. That sounds like it's about intention.
100%.
Doing things on purpose, intentionally, which is what I'm a fan of. And
yes,
you already dropped 2 words that we want to touch on that I have in my questions for you, which are vision and strategy. Without giving too much away, of course, because people should go buy your course. But like, what is vision? How do you reach it? And for people like me, for example, I am a very not strategic person. I really struggle with like making a roadmap and a strategy, and like I get completely lost.
Sure.
What are simple steps to kind of create a strategy I was going to say to create a strategy for yourself to reach your goal, to reach your vision? I guess I asked a lot of questions there.
No worries.
Maybe let's start with vision. What is that?
100%. Okay, so vision is, we're as creatives, as photographers, we're very visual humans, right? Like we take images, we have in our mind's eye maybe images that we want to create before we go to a wedding. I know you were a wedding photographer, now you do portraits. So before you shoot a portrait, you know your client, and you know what the photo or what you want to create looks like, right? So you've created a vision. So it's basically just like a picture in your mind's eye of an expectation or something that you're excited to create. And so while we do this for our clients and for certain weddings or certain portrait shoots, why not do this for your life and have a really clear vision? Because you're in control. Like, why not have a really clear vision of exactly what you want that to look like in terms of life, business, relationships, your wealth? All of this, of course, like takes time to create, but your project is your life, and if it's important to you, I truly believe it's worth spending and investing the time in yourself, because it's only for you, right? So that's essentially what I feel a vision is, just a clear picture of the ideal lifestyle and picture of where you want your life to go, or what you'd like it to look like. And that could be 5 years from now, that could be a month from now, and it could be 20 years from now. But I feel like it's really important to have something that you're excited to move towards, and go after, and set a standard for, this is what I believe like I am worthy of, and this is what excites me to get up every morning and shoot those weddings or take those portraits.
Do you sometimes in your work come across people who feel, because I have these conversations sometimes, and sometimes I feel like that, who feel too much pressure by these big words, by these labels? I feel like there's 2 camps. There's camp, yes, you need a purpose, go find it. And then there's people who are like, well, your life is the purpose, just live. And sometimes I feel like maybe the truth is somewhere in between. Do you come across people who feel that pressure? Do you sometimes have you felt that?
The pressure to have a vision, or to, can you clarify? I just want to make sure I'm answering all right.
Yes, the pressure to, you have to find your purpose. You have to have a vision. Where are you going with this, with your life? What are you doing? Versus just living,
Yeah, totally. So what I would say is it's really important for me. I'll answer for myself. It's really important for me to know my vision and my purpose as well as I can, because I know that's what gives me peace and balance and clarity. And so, as I mentioned, being an architect is someone who like is in control and is really creating the life that they want. It's important for me to have a clear vision and a clear purpose. For others, if it doesn't resonate, then fair enough. But I believe if you're not in control and you're not clear on where you're going, then you end up drifting. And when you're drifting, yes, that can be great if you're a traveler with no destination in mind and you're on a gap year and things like that. But most photographers, I believe, if you're in business, you don't want to be drifting because you want financial security. You want to make sure that you're serving the type of clients that you want to serve. You want to make sure that you're living a lifestyle that you initially intended on. And so you may have lost that a little bit before you became successful as a photographer, but the more you can get clear on those things, I truly believe it can help you move forward. And so if it doesn't resonate with someone at this point, and it feels like a lot of pressure or whatever that may be, then at the very least journal on it and get out some of your thoughts or beliefs, at least, on having a vision or having a purpose, and take it from there.
Love journaling.
Yes, me too.
I saw, yes, from the magic of Instagram that you do too. But how do you feel like you leave still with being purpose driven, vision driven? Do you feel like you still leave room for like magic and surprises? Because obviously we can make plans and we can set a strategy and set goals, and then something like COVID happens and
yes.
Or other things that you could never imagine, dream of, and suddenly you have to pivot and change things, or sometimes good things happen, not COVID, but like things that are surprising, but in a good way. And do you find that for yourself you can leave that space for that surprise and magic?
Yeah, 100%. I feel like you're probably, or I feel that you're better able to see it and appreciate it because you know that surprise or that magic was intended for you, because you knew exactly what you wanted and what you're going after. So to give an example, I was creating these conferences and I was serving others through bringing speakers like yourself and other amazing educators to Vancouver. And I did that for 4 years, knowing truly, like, my vision is that I want to be a speaker or an educator, and I want to also like help others through my story, because honestly, like, I don't see a lot of people like myself. There are of course like people from minorities and things like that around, but I don't see as much, or I wasn't seeing as much as there could be. There's so much potential, right? So knowing my purpose and my vision, something like COVID happened. Yes, it was such a challenging and difficult time, but it actually gave me more clarity on what I wanted. And as I mentioned, like, I accelerated becoming an educator. I initially thought maybe this will be in 3, 4, 5 years, but it ended up becoming a lot quicker. And I think it's important to know. But when you do know your vision or your purpose, you can recognize and create space in your life, in your days, for that surprise and that magic that you mentioned.
I love that. So if we talk about strategy, okay, we have a purpose, we have a vision, we have an idea. Like, I have a vision, like, this is where I want to be, this is who I want to be. How do you work backwards? How do you create a roadmap and that strategy when you are absolutely not strategic. What are your like top tips? I don't know, top 3, top 5. I don't know how many you have, but like,
Sure.
what would be like an ideal way to do that?
Yeah, awesome. I love the word. I love that you use the word roadmap, because honestly, that's exactly where to start. And to, if you're driving from London to Edinburgh, for example, there may be certain service stations along the way, or gas stations, as I say in North America, and pit stops, or there may be certain viewpoints that you'd like to see along the way, things like that, right? So if you imagine that roadmap, literally that journey with all these different destinations, they're all destinations on the way to reaching your ultimate goal, which is being in Edinburgh, right? So yes, that's the ultimate goal. And I get it. Like, a lot of people have, creatives have visions that they feel like, wow, that's so big. How am I ever going to do it? Right? Because you may want to, become the #1 portrait photographer in the world, or wedding photographer in the world, and or be listed in and get some
How did
award
you know
accolades.
that? That's exactly what it would be.
Okay, awesome. So along the way, there may be certain destinations, right? So, and that may be to be listed in a more local award, or a more regional award, or something like that. Before it's a world, or before you get to Edinburgh, maybe you want to go via Coventry for whatever reason, And so it's about creating these smaller goals or milestones along the way to your bigger goals. And so it's really important to look at the ultimate goal, and then to start breaking it down into smaller goals, and then looking at the first goal, whatever that may be. And honestly, if you feel like you can go after that right now and start moving towards it, great. If it still feels a bit overwhelming or daunting in any way, then it's simply a matter of breaking it down even more. And so your big vision or goal becomes smaller goals, and ultimately it's we can create all the vision boards and all the goals that we want. It really is about taking action after that, and
I know.
And moving towards it, because without getting into the car and going to the first stop, or Coventry on the way to Edinburgh, you're never going to hit Edinburgh, right? So about taking action.
Absolutely. And it's I often find like it's that first, the scariest thing sometimes is that first step. Once you take the first step, the ones after that are definitely easier.
Yes.
But it's that scary first step, isn't it?
Totally.
When I first created my first online course, my business coach at the time, she said, I was so blocked. Like I really was so resistant. Like I knew I wanted to do it, and I had something valuable and important there, but I was so resistant. And she said to me, set it all up, the website and everything, and launch it, but just record the first module. Just record the first one. Nobody needs to know. Nobody needs to know you haven't recorded everything else. Just record your first module and launch the thing, and then you have to do everything else. Like you have no choice.
Yes. Yeah, totally.
It sounds a bit mad, but it was actually good advice for someone like me. If someone's really like trapped in fear and really resistant, but they actually do want to do it, for whatever reason, they're very, very resistant and blocked. It really helped. The hardest thing was really recording that first video. I was sweating. I was so scared. I recorded, I think, like 17 versions. Like it was terrible. But after that, all the other 6 videos were easy.
Beautiful. Congrats. That's huge. That's really big. And 2 things that you mentioned was, one, accountability. Like, your coach mentioned this, and you had accountability within there to yourself and to this course, because you'd shared it, and that's really important. And that's why the Architect Lifestyle System, the course that I have, is like, really, you're in a community with other people who are just as hungry to get after their vision and goals. And it's not about comparison or impressing someone else. It's just knowing what you want, and then moving forward towards that, and everyone encouraging each other, of course, in like a supportive environment. So accountability is important. And then yeah, a little bit of pressure, because we can definitely procrastinate, put things off, and you know, once you'd released it and you did the first session, you gain momentum, which is huge. And so, like I mentioned, you know, getting in that car, driving to Edinburgh, once you start going, you have momentum, and then it's a lot easier. So do whatever you can in terms of accountability, in terms of declaring it to the world, posting on Instagram, whatever, but take that first step, because afterwards, you know, it's all forward momentum from there, really.
Amazing. I love that. So breaking it down as small as you needed to, as small as you needed
Definitely.
to yourself, and then taking that first step without looking at the whole thing, just taking that first step first.
Yes.
And community, like as you mentioned, Sachin, how important is community? Like, it blows my mind. And it took me 36 years to understand. How long did it take you? I don't know. Probably not as long as me.
Community is, yeah, it's been huge. I mean, I mentioned those nightclub parties that I used to throw in London from when I was 15, and we set up the Hip Hop Society at my university,
Wow.
and you know, just bringing people together with like-minded interests. I feel like that's how we grow, and that's how we evolve, and it's so important for our mental well-being, for our own care. And I think it's really about, you know, knowing yourself too. If you thrive in environments where you're with other people, and you went to a conference and you enjoyed it, or you're a part of a football team or volleyball team, whatever that may be, and you like being around others, and that brings out the best in you, then 100% you should play to that. I think that's really powerful.
Yeah, but also, like, in terms of reaching your vision and reaching your goals, nobody reaches their goal alone. Like, you can't.
Exactly.
You
True.
need other people, right? We need community, and being connected. Like, someone knows someone, and someone helps you, and people support you, and you support each other, and then you reach your vision involving other people as well.
Totally. And that's where that surprise and magic you spoke of is. It's in the community. It's in the people saying, oh, that's what you want. Like, I know exactly where you can get that, or who can help you get that. And only by like sharing it and knowing it clearly will those things happen. Like, we all have those experiences of, you know, you speak on something that you really want. Like when you wanted to become a wedding photographer, and you told all your friends, and they were like, my friend Jane's getting married, or, you know, Marco, or whoever it is, right? Like, and then you're like, oh my gosh, I'm booking weddings now, because you knew what you wanted, and you were excited, and you were passionate about it. So
yeah, absolutely.
Super key.
Absolutely, it's so key. And yeah, it took me a long time to understand that we can't reach anything just by ourselves. Nobody does, which is incredible. Sachin, what do you think? How do you feel about the word hustle?
How do I feel about it? So, you know, we spoke via email. This is the first time we're meeting. We spoke a bit earlier just about like some of the topics, and hustle. Yeah, I mean, you know, I mentioned about journaling before. If whatever hustle does for anyone listening or watching this, journal on it, because we all have our own definitions of these things, but it's truly got to be like your definition of it, right? Like, not just what you feel people want you to say or think hustle is, or truly define it in your own ways. But for me, I don't mind the word. Like, I like hustling. I think there's like an art in doing it, and I feel like as artists who want to be in business, as like creatives and CEOs, we've all got to have a bit of hustle about us, because if you're sitting there waiting for clients to just call you up and book you, that can only last so long. Afterwards, you got to be tapping into some form of hustle, whether you want to call it hustle or something else. If you want to create the kind of lifestyle that you want, it's important to have a bit of that energy and excitement, which could be deemed as hustle, to create again, like the life that you want, or the type of clients that you want. And I hope that answers the question. I definitely I guess the global definition of it may be a bit more around, work until you burn out, basically, or
that kind of thing. Yeah. So when I hear the word hustle, I think of
Hmm,
how I define it, or like I can't hear it anymore.
sure.
It's that kind of you you work, you live to work, basically, um,
Yes.
to make money that you don't have time to spend. You just work, yeah, as you said, until you burn
Hmm,
out.
yeah.
You sacrifice your life, you sacrifice your family, your friends, your social life, just to build this empire, to reach your goal, whatever it is. That's kind of
Hmm,
what I hear when I hear the word hustle.
hmm. So yeah, so sacrificing everything for the sake of like the goal or the vision. Yeah, so I don't think there's like longevity in that, and ultimately, I don't think that kind of lifestyle like pays off. We all know like rich, famous people who are deeply like sad or depressed or have anxiety and things like that because of the amount that they've sacrificed and bridges that they burn, and I definitely don't believe in that. I do believe in uh, hustling in the sense of being creative, creative hustle to um, hustling for the photo that you want to take at a wedding because you're just like, I know this is about to happen. I've got to get that. So that type of hustling, I think, is great. But I really believe, and with the architect lifestyle system and the way I live my life is that, you talked about, or you mentioned work-life balance earlier. I don't believe necessarily like there is a balance, meaning like 50-50, but I do believe in work-life harmony.
I
And
like that. Yeah.
yeah, and sometimes, you know, if you're a wedding photographer, the summer means that you're going to be working or editing and shooting a lot more. And unfortunately, parts of your personal life have to be sacrificed, meaning you can't go camping for like 2 weeks in August because you're shooting with your friends, because you're shooting weddings. And that's actually when you make the majority of your money, right? So, but yeah, you can harmonize that time by spending a day or two or something like that on this trip. And at other times, for example, in January and February, when your wedding season is really quiet, maybe that's when you go traveling and you go on these 2 week trips or you go abroad. And so life is in harmony in those ways. It's not always going to be 50-50, but it can be harmonized. And I really feel like as creatives, as photographers, um, for longevity, it's really important that we take care of like our health and our well-being, our mental health, physical health are so important, and that can only help our creativity. So, yeah, I truly believe that. So, in summary, with hustling, I do believe a bit of hustle is appropriate, but not to the level where you're sacrificing your personal care, because I really believe self-care is business care, and the more you take care of yourself, the more that will only help your business and your relationships and all uh, the magic that awaits you.
Ooh, that's perfect. That's so true. Self-care is business care. I mean, you can't give if you're not well.
Exactly.
You can't give to your clients. I mean, you can for a while, I guess, but as you said, it's not sustainable. There's no longevity in
Mm,
doing that at the end of the day.
yeah.
What are, if you don't mind sharing, like what are some of the ways you practice that self-care in your own life and business?
Yeah. How long do you have for the podcast? But yeah, with self-care and practices, every single morning, the first thing I do is to prioritize my self-care. I think it's the best time to do it because there's no other distractions. As long as you're not looking at your phone first thing, nothing else is really entering your sphere. You can set up your home in a way that can really help you uh, get off on the right foot. And so, um, yeah, my morning really begins with drinking a glass of water, like stretching. I do have a yoga routine that I do. I do 10 to 50 minutes of pranayama or breathing exercises. I then drop into a meditation. After that meditation, I journal, and that's always a really powerful time to just kind of download or let go of certain things, but also through the meditation, a lot of ideas come, and it's a great place for me to capture those ideas. And then my morning routine, really continues from, of course, like showering, getting ready, having a great breakfast or a smoothie, and then just like I love the Daily Stoic, and I read that every morning. I love like just having just a coffee and just chilling, and everything before I end up at my desk really is part of my self-care routine. So it's about 2.5 hours long, to be honest, from the moment I wake up to the moment I finish that. But I consider that whole morning routine as part of my self-care, and that's just the morning. Like throughout the day, for sure, like I've been out for a couple of walks already this morning in Vancouver, to just kind of split up the tasks and the things I'm doing, and just get outside, get out in nature, feel that sun on my face, to just breathe and rest. I'll be doing that right after this call as well, before I have my lunch. And and again, I've been thinking about this a lot recently. The two words that still stick out with me from what you said is surprise and magic. And I've been leaning into more and more of just creating pockets in my day where whatever happens can kind of happen, and not just so like razor focused on this task, then a break, then this task, and just like letting it be more fluid. So while it's still structured, there can still be like fluidity too.
Beautiful. Yeah, and that's the beautiful thing about being self-employed. I guess even if you're not self-employed, you can always in your day, you can slow down in between
Yes.
things that you're doing. You can find moments to slow down, even if that's just as simple as you don't have to go like on holiday on a beach to relax. You can literally go in the park for half an hour, or even if it's just 15 minutes, and sit in the sunshine on a bench, or meditate for 5 minutes in a quiet corner, like just get away. Definitely. Or like that, those, you can create those slow moments before going to the next thing. But I think a lot of people they think of relaxation in terms of like this big thing, right? Like, oh, they have to block out a whole day to go to the spa, or they have to book a holiday, instead of integrating it in like your day, like in small ways. So
definitely.
I really love that. So when I was a wedding photographer, the thing that I struggled the most, you mentioned like camping with friends and stuff. I really struggled with, I was being a lot in other people's lives, in my clients' lives, and documenting their lives and their stories and their memories. And I was missing out on a lot of my own moments with friends, with families. Like, this as a wedding photographer, like you miss birthday gatherings.
Yes.
You miss even friends' weddings sometimes, or family weddings. You miss barbecues, you miss, whether it's camping, anything that like your community's doing, you miss out on that for months and months. And I struggled a lot with that. I'm super grateful that I still have friends after 10 years of wedding photography, because I missed out on a lot of life and what my community was doing. How do you deal with that? How do you harmonize that in your life?
Great question. Really, I feel like having scheduled time off in advance, and knowing that this is when I'm going to take these breaks, and there's only so many years of, say, missing your mom or dad's birthday and feeling guilty about it before it's like, I'm going to be there next time. And so just knowing that in advance, putting it into your calendar, I really live by my schedule and my calendar, and putting it in there and being intentional about it. And I think that's really key. Again, when you have like, a vision and some goals, and what you're kind of, how your life is structured and how that's going to look, it gives you a lot of clarity. And then okay, well, this is what I'm doing in my business, and we put so much effort. I know that was true a lot for me at the beginning, was just putting everything into my business and not leaving space for myself. And I'll start looking at my calendars and then thinking like, oh wow, like I'm just exactly what you said, right? There's no time. I'm keep one would keep, uh, say, declining invitations to other things. So what I started to do was create those experiences or start to schedule out the time. And so each year before the pandemic, for example, me and a group of friends would go on a street photography trip. And so that was great as a way, because I love traveling and exploring, but also an opportunity for me to be creative without a client in mind. Because I also noticed I all my personal work was going out the window too, right? And so that was kind of like a 3 or 4 for 1. I'd see my friends, I'd do photography, I'd be in a completely new place, learn different culture, and eat different food and party and stuff like that. We went to Cuba, Burma, Japan. It's incredible. Like that's the kind of life that you can create if you're intentional about it, and it's really powerful to just know, again, just like clearly what you want and make that space and time for it.
I love that. That's the key, intention. Again, yeah, you said it, because that's what I wasn't being for like a whole decade. I was only putting energy into work, into business, nothing else. And I wasn't being intentional about anything else about my life outside of wedding photography. And that's when you miss out on stuff. So people, just be intentional, I guess.
What shifted gears for you? Like, what made the difference? How are you now more intentional?
I think growth that came through different things. It came through just getting older and thinking about things differently. It came through therapy. It came through having a whole paradigm shift. I grew up in really conservative evangelical Christianity, left that. So it was a whole 180 shift in how I see the world.
Wow.
Getting divorced, a lot of things that kind of were the catalyst to what do I actually want? Like, why am I here? What am I living towards? What am I working towards? And being more intentional, and especially about the people in my life, because for me, after just basically hustling, I'll call it that, like for in my whole 20s and focusing everything on work, I kind of really, really wanted to switch that and have work be second in a way. And I like what you said about the harmony, obviously, because we love what we do. It's always kind of a dance. It's, there's not really a hierarchy in a way. It's kind of a blend, because photography does blend into my life as well. And I can't fully separate it, but I also now I'm way, way, way more aware of things I say yes to, and the time I make for my people, for the people in my life. Because at the end of the day, they do matter the most, like people do. That's personally for me. I know everyone's journey is different and everyone's reasons will be different for sure. And that's why it's so interesting to hear like your story and other people's stories and journeys and learn from that. That's really powerful.
Definitely. Yeah, they can serve as lessons or even just beautiful examples for what may happen in our life if we continue a certain way. Like I've experienced what you've experienced, just like a paradigm shift or things changing, and that was from being an accountant and just getting very sick through that process because I was so stressed and anxious, and I didn't enjoy it. And so 3 years of doing that will do things to you. And so but it was beautiful, like, and I don't regret any of that experience because it made me aware and conscious of what I do want. And when you do,
wakes you up, right?
Like,
it wakes you up.
Exactly.
Big time, yeah. And you start asking yourself questions. So
Totally.
That's incredible. That's what wedding photography did to me. It made me sick. It actually made me sick
Wow.
up towards the end of the 10 years of doing it, like I started getting physically, mentally sick, and I knew like, okay,
something's got to change. Yeah, definitely.
And it's beautiful to have like these wake up calls for sure. Thank you so much for talking to me. Honestly, I could keep going. I really appreciate you sharing your journey and your knowledge. It was really, really valuable to learn from you. Thank you.
Thank you, Nadia. Yeah, no, I really appreciate it. And yeah, hopefully we can connect in real life soon.